There was a sign in the very first minute of the 1883 season finale that told you everything you needed to know about what was to come over the next 90 minutes. Did you catch it? Yellowstone fans probably did, because it's a symbol that Taylor Sheridan has relied on before to forecast death and destruction. He's really tied the two shows together quite well, without making one seem like a commercial for the other, and in the end, we not only learn the origin of the Yellowstone Ranch, we get a major clue as to what Casey might have seen during his vision quest to end Season 4.
I saw the end of us.
Right, that one. Midway through the finale, this guy said something that will absolutely prove to be pivotal in the coming years. Honestly, he might have said too much, but we'll get there. I'm Billy Dukes, and you're probably not here to talk about actor Graham Greene, or Taylor Sheridan, or even Yellowstone. The Season 1 finale tied a bow on Elsa's story, and then it did so much more. Let's start with this question. What surprised you most about Episode 10? Drop it in the comments section. I guess this is a good time to warn you that this video will be full of spoilers, so tap on out of here if you don't want to know. And as always, if you'd like to continue the conversation, find links to the Dutton Rules podcast in the description section of this video. It wasn't a given that Elsa would die during Episode 10, but all signs pointed there. There are actually some people still trying to justify a way that she actually lived through the episode because of something John Dutton said during Season 1 of Yellowstone.
Since 1886, every Dutton who died is buried 300 yards from my back porch.
She's gone, y'all. And of course, it happened in the most beautiful way possible. James, Shea, and Margaret ended up taking her to Fort Casper to find a doctor, even though it seemed like they'd go without one at the end of Episode 9. There, they learned that the fort was now a sort of town called the CY Ranch, run by Joseph Carey. And once again, these are real historical people and places, and the CY Ranch would eventually give way to Casper, Wyoming. In fact, CY Avenue in Casper keeps the legacy alive today. I'm not even joking when I say there's a Walmart there. The doctor they meet sort of shrugs his shoulders at the situation, but the team learn that those people are loyal to the men they killed, so they decide to push on north before anyone figures it all out. Well, some of them push on.
We go to Oregon now.
The immigrants decide to go it alone on the Oregon Trail, which proves to be a very, very poor decision. So if you're keeping score, of the 50 or so that started, all that's left at this point are the Dutton Four: Shea, Thomas, Noemi and her boys, and Josef and Rissa. Wade and Colton decide to head back to Texas after the two groups separate, and they get a fitting goodbye monologue from Elsa. That was my first tissue moment of the night. Kinda liked those dudes. She wonders if they stake their claim, or maybe they winter in Wyoming.
Another future awaited them, and it lay in the abyss of unmarked graves along the Oregon Trail.
That she says this with a smile is an absolute dagger. By the way, is it just me, or have all the lines between fact and fiction become blurry throughout this show? Like, give me a thumbs up if you've had to remind yourself that the Duttons weren't real people, and it's all make-believe. I mean, it's so real that at times it's cruel, like when Thomas has this real casual conversation with Josef.
And the death is working its way up. Now we can take the leg, or you can die with it.
I'm gonna save you the sickness of rewatching the amputation scene because, oh, sweet Moses. In the end, though, it worked, and Josef lives. But his wife, Rissa, does not. Her injuries from Episode 9 were too much to overcome, and she becomes the first of 3 major deaths to close out the episode. Shout out to Mark Rissman for his best performance to date.
You look at me like I'm dying?
Tim McGraw and Isabel May were once again extraordinary together. The slow march to her final scene was real and agonizing. Frankly, I don't know how anyone who's lost big recently can watch this show. There was a moment when there seemed to be hope. Elsa's fever breaks and she rides on, but then she falls ill and faints. Enter Graham Greene, and what is long-term the most important thing that happened during the entire first season of this show. His tribe does what they can do to help Elsa out, but then he reveals that the Lakota Indians dip their arrows in manure to ensure infection and death. That is a dirty trick. James doubles down on building his home where his daughter dies, so Greene's character, Spotted Eagle, points him to Paradise Valley, but...
And in 7 generations, my people will rise up and take it back from you.
That is super important, so I'm going to play it again.
that in 7 generations, my people will rise up and take it back from you.
Not only does this forge a lifelong alliance between the Dutton family and his tribe, it lets us know how this all ends for the modern-day Duttons, because if nothing else, Taylor Sheridan keeps his promises. He said that James is great-great-great-grandfather to John Dutton, as played by Kevin Costner. So, count with me. James Dutton, first generation. John Sr., the 5-year-old, second generation. John Jr., who would be John Sr.'s kid and the great-grandfather to Kevin Costner's character, third generation. His kid, fourth generation. That kid's kid is fifth generation, and that would be John Dutton's father. John Dutton, Kevin Costner, is sixth generation. Casey Dutton, seventh generation. Can you see what I see here? I think we can reasonably conclude that the natives, as led by Gil Birmingham's Thomas Rainwater, will get the land in the end of Yellowstone, and this makes sense if only because it fits with both the show's ideology and Taylor Sheridan's respect for the natives. How does it happen? No idea, but I think that's where we're headed with all this. Taylor said this, by the way, during the Road West behind-the-scenes special that came during the course of Season 1 of 1883. The problem with this is it's stuffing a lot of kids into about 100 years, but there's not a whole lot to do in 19th century Montana, so people got busy with it. I suppose you could kick this timeline back if you interpret this as 7 more generations, but that really just gets us to Tate. I think at this point, it's worth revisiting this quote.
Since 1886, every Dutton who died is buried 300 yards from my back porch.
People thought Elsa lived 3 more years because of this line from John Dutton, which was said during Season 1, Episode 7 of Yellowstone. My explanation for that is it's an acceptable plot hole. I mean, listen, Taylor wrote that show about 5 years ago. No one knew there'd be an 1883 coming. To hold him accountable for every detail for that long would really be unfair. Or hell, maybe John Dutton just misremembered during his speech. This show, and I've said it before, is logical, not whimsical. No one comes back from the dead. I take sort of an Occam's razor approach to all these problems. The simplest explanation is probably right. Back to Elsa. She wants to pick where she's buried, but that can only happen if she and James trot away on horseback, and that decision doesn't go well with Margaret. This was my second cry of the night.
I love you.
I love you both. With all my heart.
See you in the valley, Mama.
I'll see you there.
What's remarkable here is that the land they rode through looked remarkably familiar to me, and I kind of wonder if they filmed this scene at the same place where they film Yellowstone's outdoor scenes. Eventually, Elsa finds a tree that looks like a nice spot, and they share a really tender final conversation before this.
It's good. It's good.
Elsa continues to narrate the episode, saying how she understands life, death, and heaven. Sam appears again, which I think just means that she wants him in her heaven, not that he's dead, but you may disagree. Leave a comment below if so. It was a really difficult final 10 minutes, but we do get heartwarming positive resolutions for Josef and Thomas and Noemi and her kids, not so much for Shea. He reaches the ocean and shows the surf to his wife before the camera pulls back. We hear the crack of gunfire, and the scene shifts. It was the ending he wanted. So what's next? Well, first I want to again invite you to join the larger conversation at the Dutton Rules podcast because, my opinion's not the only one that matters, and there are more episodes of 1883 coming in the fall, but they stop short of calling it a second season. I think we're done with Thomas, Noemi, and Josef, but what do you think? In 2023, a second Yellowstone origin story called 1932 begins. No cast details have been revealed there, but we'll navigate the Great Depression and Prohibition. Kind of an interesting note, Prohibition was over in Montana by that point, so it might introduce another kind of business for the Dutton family. I'm Billy Dukes for Taste of Country, and a big thanks for watching these weekly recap videos with me. Subscribe for more Yellowstone 1883 and all the Taylor Sheridan franchise dramas. And if you liked it, share it with a friend or a family member who loves these shows.